Okay, let's unpack this. There's this strange paradox, right?
Mm.
Most Americans say they have money saved for emergencies. Sounds okay on the surface,
Yeah, sounds promising.
but then you look at the actual data, and it shows, well, a stunning majority would be completely crushed by something pretty small, like a $1,000 unexpected bill.
Oof. Yeah.
So today we're doing a deep dive into financial readiness here in the U.S.
And the material we're drawing on for this, it pulls together findings from various different analyses.
Okay.
We're looking at broad financial data, household savings trends, even some insights from communities really focused on preparedness.
Right. And our mission here is really to slice through the numbers, get past just the feeling of being prepared,
Yeah.
and understand what genuine financial readiness looks like, especially when life throws you that curveball.
Could be a water heater, could be something much bigger.
Exactly. But why this disconnect? People say they have savings, but then struggle with a relatively modest expense.
And that disconnect is just crucial. The sources we looked at really hammer this home. Financial preparedness isn't just about, being wealthy.
It's not just investment.
No, it's framed more as a foundational survival capability. I mean, think about it. Your financial capacity is what lets you get, maintain, and critically recover essential resources during any kind of crisis.
So it underpins everything else you might prepare for.
But it really does. It underpins everything.
Okay, so let's look at the scale of this challenge then. The data on emergency savings alone is pretty eye-opening.
It is.
You see this high percentage, like 89% of U.S. adults reporting they have some kind of emergency fund.
Some kind, yeah.
But digging just a bit deeper, it turns out only about 36% actually have enough cash set aside to cover 4 or more months of essential expenses.
And that gap just gets wider when you look at the actual median balances.
Okay, what are those?
Well, the typical U.S. household has maybe $8,700, give or take, in their immediate transaction accounts, checking, savings, that sort of thing.
Right. Which covers what, maybe a month and a half of average expenses?
Exactly. Compare that to the figure often thrown around for a solid 6-month cushion. That's closer to $35,000.
Wow. That's not just a gap.
It's a chasm, a huge difference.
And that difference helps explain why that stat you mentioned earlier. 59% of Americans would genuinely struggle with that unexpected $1,000 bill.
More than half the country. It's significant.
And the sources show that if they got hit with that bill, 43% would have basically no choice but to borrow money.
Right. Credit cards, family, maybe a loan.
Which leads us straight into the next big hurdle, debt.
Oh, definitely. High interest debt, especially credit card debt, Americans collectively carry over $1 trillion there. It's a massive drag on readiness.
$1 trillion. And almost half of respondents carry a balance month to month.
Yeah, averaging close to $9,000 per person carrying a balance. And this debt, it doesn't just siphon off money you could be saving. That locks you into payments. That severely limits your flexibility when an emergency actually hits. It's interesting, the sources point out that for many people, being debt-free is their main definition of being financially prepared.
It's a really tough cycle, isn't it? Lack of savings forces you into debt during emergencies. And then the debt makes it that much harder to build up any savings.
Exactly. And the material also flags longer-term issues like retirement readiness and points to what's described as a kind of systemic deficit in financial literacy across the U.S.
Yeah, I saw that. Less than half the states even require a basic personal finance course in high school.
Right. And that basic understanding, or lack thereof, it impacts overall financial resilience.
Okay, so building on that idea of preparing for disruption, it's interesting to look at communities specifically focused on readiness, the prepper world.
Yeah, that's seen a big uptick in engagement. The sources suggest something like 72% of adults are thinking about prepping in some way now.
Right, and they're often focused on stocking up gear, food, water, medical supplies.
Physical stuff, yeah.
Financially, the data on typical preppers shows they are allocating funds, maybe $1,000 into savings, a few hundred towards home self-sufficiency, nearly $500 maybe stashed in cash.
And what's interesting here is, while many in that community are taking concrete steps, the sources do note a potential focus on the physical gear.
Right.
That might sometimes overshadow building that essential financial foundation. They do consider things like stashing cash or precious metals.
Driven by concerns about system disruption, maybe?
Yeah, possibly concerns about system disruptions, maybe even asset seizure worries, pushing them to diversify beyond just banks. But the general stats still suggest financial vulnerability is an issue even within this group.
So it highlights that diversifying holdings, physical cash, precious metals, even focusing on barter skills becomes part of a financial strategy, especially for more extreme scenarios.
Exactly. It's part of the bigger picture.
So how do we bridge this gap then? What are the key strategies the sources recommend? First thing seems obvious. Build that emergency fund.
Absolutely number one. Aim for 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. Keep it accessible, ideally somewhere earning a bit of interest. Automating savings helps a lot.
Okay. And second, aggressively manage that high interest debt.
Crucial. Paying off credit cards first, that frees up significant cash flow, improves your maneuverability. And maintaining a good credit score is also vital for flexibility if you do need funds later.
Makes sense. Then there's safeguarding vital documents, financial, personal records. That's non-negotiable.
Totally. The sources mention tools like the Emergency Financial First Aid Kit, EFAC, helps you get everything organized.
And store copies securely, multiple ways, multiple locations.
Yep. Fireproof safe at home, maybe secure cloud storage, an external hard drive kept off-site. Redundancy is key.
And don't forget insurance.
Right. Review your policies, property, health, life. Is it actually adequate? Do you understand your coverage, your deductibles? Flood insurance, often separate, can be critical too.
Good point.
Huh.
Finally, the sources mention physical cash. Having some on hand for immediate post-disaster needs if electronic systems go down.
Yeah, maybe $200 to $1,000 for more localized events. And then thinking about deeper disruptions, diversifying more broadly cash, maybe precious metals, even useful skills or barter goods. Budgeting consistently underpins all of this.
Okay, so wrapping up, we've really seen this significant gap between feeling financially prepared and, well, actually being prepared according to the data.
Yeah, the perception versus reality. And the obstacles are real. Not enough deep savings, the heavy weight of debt, and these underlying financial literacy challenges.
And we've walked through some concrete steps. Building that essential cash cushion, really tackling high-interest debt, getting your critical documents secured, checking insurance, and considering diversification for different kinds of disruption.
And the core takeaway, really, is that true resilience isn't just about having supplies stocked up.
Right.
The sources make it really clear. You have to integrate financial planning deeply into your overall preparedness strategy. It's that financial capacity that truly empowers you to adapt, to recover quickly.
And ensures all your other physical preps aren't undermined because you just run out of funds when you need them most.
Exactly.
And this isn't just abstract data we've been talking about. It's really about your personal ability to navigate whatever uncertainties lie ahead.
Which raises, I think, an important question for you, the listener, to really mull over. If traditional financial systems were significantly disrupted, seriously knocked offline, how would you realistically sustain yourself or recover? Does your current preparedness plan truly account for that specific financial reality?